top of the morning. How we doing, everybody? It is week 12, and I figured it would be a good time to talk about some of the big matchups we have coming up next week, the conference scenarios, and all those things here as I watch the Blue Jays close in on a World Series. So, first, let's take a look at the Heisman watch. Let's take a look here. Jarrett Gibson has been unreal, and he just had a huge game against LSU. Well, at least I thought it. I guess I didn't see the actual. Here, let's go look at the ratings. Jarrett Gibson, obviously, one of the demons of this league. Elite agility, elite speed. Um, what did he have against LSU earlier today? I guess he didn't have a huge game. I just saw a pretty big play from him. So yeah, not a huge day per se, but solid all year long. Big performances against Oklahoma. Just a touchdown machine, as you could see, multiple 3 touchdown or more games. Next is Jordan Lyle. Lyle, again, one of those just really fast, talented halfbacks here. The senior at Miami, and shout out Bald Kyle coming in and having a Heisman performance. Always cool when new users come in and make an impact. He's been, Lyle's been dominant, and you look on the other side of the ball, there's an edge rusher at Miami who is causing major problems. I think he leads the league in sacks by a good amount. A good 3 game stretch here, over 100 yards in each, a little bit of a break, and then, of course, big game against Troy. But Lyle has been really solid all year long. Again, multiple 3 touchdown games. Then you look at Daniel Bray out of Utah. This has been a long time coming. 3 gold abilities, just really good in the open field. Elite speed for Daniel Bray. Finally kind of coming into his own his junior year. So probably one more year we will see him versus the other guys who are seniors. Daniel Bray, second year with 1,000 yards. Some big performances, particularly against Auburn and UCLA and Washington. So 3 really big user games, and obviously Utah is leaning on that. In a big game today against Tennessee and a must-have-it win. So you could tell Utah really getting the most. This has got to be the craziest name, Khalil Valentine. This is another halfback here, 94 speed. So all the shifty boys making their rounds here in the Heisman count. In Illinois transfer, obviously we've seen a lot of running backs come through this team. Look at this big game, 220, multiple 200-yard plus games, a 5 touchdown performance against Oklahoma. And then the first non-halfback here, Matthew Peters, redshirt freshman, 97 speed, plat shifty, 980 receiving yards, just a demon, over half of his yards on Yak alone. So, yeah, interesting. And 79 overall. You can see everybody here above the 86-ish. But then you have Matthew. So, there's the future there for this team. Let's go take a look at, we'll go back to some of the awards here. Actually, you know what? We're in the spirit of players. We're in the spirit of players here. So let's finish up here. So the Maxwell Award for the player of the year. Very similar list to what we saw before with the Heisman, and there's A.K. Deer, halfback from Alabama. CJ Carr. Let's highlight the quarterbacks. 96 throw power. Look at these. Look at the accuracies, big time throw power, very athletic. One of the best quarterbacks we've seen. No extender, obviously, but CJ Carr has been starting as a true freshman. He's a junior now, so maybe he gets one more year. Like a 39 passing touchdowns, 4 picks. Juice certainly having a year. And the rest are halfbacks and then the wide receiver. So Walter Camp Award. This is awarded to the player of the year. There are multiple. Okay, maybe the names are quite wrong here, but essentially the same list. Quarterback of the year. We talked about Darian Mensah early. The replacement to Austin Simmons. He's got 44 passing touchdowns, 8 picks, 3K in the yards. Dylan Raiola, great season here from Phil. Marcel Reed. Interesting how low on the passing touchdowns, 9. But obviously, if you've seen A&M, number one team in the nation, they can just run everywhere. And then Dante Moore has been a problem. Quite mobile, big time arm, big time accuracy. They get him going out on those sprint outs to the right, really tough to deal with. Talk about some of these better defensive players. You got USC. You just Sam Backer with 6 passes defense, 7 interceptions. Lurker, pretty good athlete for what it's worth. And you got Jonah Williams out here, 94 speed junior. It's just a different breed of human being when Jonah Williams, the Texas Will, is better than all of my corners. 2 sacks, 5 picks, 4 passes defensed. Just a demon. Shout out Marquise Lightfoot here. Quick jump, like 16 sacks on the year for Marquise Lightfoot. Evan Bennett Jr. getting 14 sacks on the year, so some solid. This is that Pickett, Booker Pickett from Miami. I was talking about him earlier. 15 sacks, 3 fumbles, just an absolute demon here. Jim Thorpe, best defensive back of the year. 4 picks, 7, 3, 7, 5, 7, 4. Oh, shout out Cyrus Polu with no picks. How he's on the list, I don't know. Some solid DBs. Jaleel Hurley from USC. Running back of the year. Yeah, running back of the year award is effectively the Heisman Award at this point. Let's take a look at the conference standings and then go through there and see where we're at. So, this week, Clemson and North Carolina play, if I'm not mistaken. We are currently week 12. Yes, so these guys will play, and they will replay for the ACC championship. There is not a path for Florida State here unless, no, I think all these guys just, they have wins. The tiebreaker win. He does play South Carolina, but that's a non-conference game. So, this is effectively a preview of that match. 10-0 North Carolina, 9-1 Clemson. Point differential favors, obviously, Warren, your defending national championship. Just a solid season from both of these guys. I really I expected Pitt Jazz to really compete with Clemson, and he's really coming to his own. So, solid season from him. I mean, let's see. He had Notre Dame, beat Notre Dame. That's a tall task. Beat Miami. It's a good team. Lost to Phil. But everywhere else, he's answered the call, really. And these last 2 games are going to be probably his toughest. And I like a guy who knows he's probably going to get to a championship game being battle-tested at the end. So, Florida State, a valiant season at 8-3, but it looks like they're going to be on the outside looking in when it comes to everything. They'll probably have a matchup with Florida, so an opportunity to get a big quality win at the end of the year. 77-0. Sheesh. Getting back at Duke last year, who beat them. Pest did not enjoy that, so he let him know there. Cracking with a big 4 touchdown game. All right. So that's your ACC. Some really good. Shout out Ricky being a problem with Pitt at 7-4. But that's the scope there. On to the Big 12. These guys play each other tomorrow nights at 7. This is gonna be a fun game, but again, a scenario where I don't think there's a path. I don't think Nebraska plays either of them. They don't. So there isn't a path here for Nebraska to get in. So we have a preview. These guys have had a huge run. I mean, look how close they are. Similar in point differential. Ole Miss does have the 2 losses. Let's take a look. An early loss to number 2 Florida and then a loss to Diga. 2 very, ranked teams, really good teams. And that's early in the year. He's figuring out the new quarterback. Since then, he's been lights out. So, however, A&M has been just untouchable. A huge win week 1. Beat the brakes off of me. Beat the brakes off of Penn State on the road at Penn State. There just hasn't really, Nebraska had a close one with them, but there really has not been anybody that's really been able to figure him out and stop that run game. So when a guy's 10-0 and he has less than 10 passing touchdowns, that just means he can run at will. So who can stop that? We will see. The Big Ten, this is where things can get a little bit hairy. So we have 2 teams up top, Washington 6-0, and their last game is this game against Penn State. So a win, and I think they secure them a win, and they 100% secure themselves in, and then that would mean Penn State has one loss, but then Penn State has to turn around. Well, actually, he has Notre Dame this week. Let me not speak out of turn. So Notre Dame this week. So Notre Dame and Penn State will play this week. Should Notre Dame win, then it's a one loss for everybody, and then Washington and Penn State. If Penn State can then beat Washington, they're all one-loss teams with wins over each other, right? Penn State would have beaten Washington. Washington would have beaten Notre Dame, and Notre Dame would have beaten Penn State. So at that point, who knows what the tiebreaker is? However, if Penn State beats Notre Dame this week, then it does not matter for Washington because he will play in the ACC or the Big Ten championship game. Because he does have the tiebreaker over Notre Dame. So that's kind of the realm there. As for how they've played, Derek has had a fantastic season. The point differential favors the other guys, but a great season so far from the Nittany Lions. Tough team to find out. They've had some quality wins. Obviously a bad loss, but beat Ohio State pretty bad. I do think that this is the toughest part of their schedule, so there's that. Ohio State, I would say disappointed a little bit. You see there the 99 overall across the board, but I do think this is a matter of Harp just not aligning too well and slumping a little bit, which I think is acceptable. You slump at times, but losing a good chunk of these user games, not being able to figure out Washington, losing bad to Notre Dame, losing bad to Penn State, really just not being locked quite in. But I do think that good things on the horizon. The Ohio State Buckeyes team is just going to stay good. But his first season in Michigan, Otto has been iffy, but has been competitive. Look at that, just a 1-score loss to 1-point loss to the number 3 team in the nation. This was a force, but I do think that Otto's in a good spot. I'm glad he ended up moving on. All right, let's go here to the Pac-12. So this has been decided. Oregon, regardless of their next game, which is against Boise State, he does have UCLA. However, UCLA with their 2 conference losses is going to be out of the picture here. So Oregon is locked into it. I mean, look at this. Look at the point differential. Almost a 300-point differential. One of the most dominant defenses all year long. They did have a challenge the other day against Auburn, and they had to get a game-winning field goal there, as well as Tennessee. So have definitely – actually, no, that game was a little bit not as close as I thought it was. It was close when I was watching it. But, I mean, they beat me pretty bad, and then Auburn. So it'll be interesting. This is the uphill challenge. Their one loss is to Warren, of all people. So real quality season for Mayhard. Can Utah figure them out? And when I say that, it's because Utah has locked themselves in. A big win against Tennessee today. Finishes their conference record at 5-1, a 9-2 season, losing only to Oregon and Texas A&M. But this is the difference right here: is that points allowed. Utah's defense is simply not quite there. An average margin of victory of 9.7, really sweating things out. Solid on the road, solid at home, and haven't lost since the Oregon defeat. But yeah, definitely just a different level at the moment. So be interesting, but we're gonna have Utah versus Oregon. We're 2-1. Utah's 2 wins to Oregon's 1 on their battles this year. I think that's the case. So can Oregon tie up the record and go on to the college football playoffs with a win here? Or, if Utah wins, there's a good chance both of these teams end up making it. So an interesting battle there. SEC, let's take a look here. So Texas has locked themselves in, undefeated in conference play, a fantastic season. Their only loss coming to A&M early in the year. They've been lights out. And probably one of the higher scoring teams in football. 5-14, 556, Jesus Christ. Then you got Florida at 10-1. 10-1, they are done with their conference schedule. They're 6-1, so it looks like across the board, that's it. So Florida, Texas, number 2 versus number 3. Florida does have a tough bout with A&M, or with South Carolina. Sorry, he just actually ended up just finishing big win against Allen. So that's going to send a number 10 team down a little bit more down the rankings. So it'll be curious to see what we're looking at here. We'll take a look at the full count of guys who I expect to be in. Let's take a look at that. So you've got A&M. I think all of these guys are going to get in no matter regardless of the circumstance. Ole Miss, if they take a loss here and then lose again, that that's an 8-4 team that or 8, 9, 10. So they would probably be a 9-4 team at that point. So that's interesting there. Ole Miss at number 5. They have to play the number 1 team in the nation 2 times. And if they don't win either of those, there's a good chance that they don't end up making the college football playoffs. LSU took a loss today to Texas. So with them not playing, history says that the 8-3 teams that do not make the championship games are the ones that get left out. Notre Dame, talked about their scenario. Penn State, Washington sitting at 8-2, could finish the season 9-2 or no 10-2. He could realistically finish the season 10-2. Well, actually, to finish 10-2, I think he would have had to have beaten Penn State. I don't know. There's a good chance he's 10-2 and doesn't play in his conference game, so that's pretty nuts. Oregon, I think Oregon ends up in regardless. Clemson is a team I think ends up in regardless. South Carolina, I think, is on the outside looking in. Penn State, again, kind of controls their own fate. Washington, so these Big 12 teams. And then Utah is a team that could really sneak in because we have seen guys that lose the conference championship. They'll be a 10-3 team at that point. So to be 10-3, I think that would be enough to get Utah in. So that's probably what we're looking at here for the college football playoffs. I don't know what the bracket is currently showing. Obviously, we will make sure. Yeah, it's looking like an all-user bracket. Obviously, this has not updated to the losses that have occurred today because obviously LSU, South Carolina, things like that. So either way, a good push to the end of the season. I think we've got a lot of big performances, big games to look out for. Specifically, I think in those Big Ten ones, I think are the ones to really be watching out for at the end of the year. Washington, Notre Dame, and Penn State all fighting for what can only be 2 spots. So good luck on the end of your season, fellas, and we will see you soon.